Have you ever wondered why you were born into this exact family? Why certain people feel instantly familiar, like you've known them forever, even if you've just met? Or why, despite all your choices, life keeps leading you back to the same types of love, the same wounds, the same unexplainable connections? What if I told you none of it is random? Not your parents, not your soulmate, not even your pain. What if, long before you ever took your first breath, your soul already knew exactly where it needed to be, who it needed to meet, and what it needed to feel in order to evolve? What if the people you struggle with the most were the very souls you chose with the deepest love? This isn't just philosophy, it's a sacred memory, one your soul carries quietly, patiently, waiting for you to remember. So take a deep breath, because once you understand how your soul selects its next life, you'll never look at love, family, or even suffering the same way again. This is the journey of remembrance, and it begins right after death. The soul awakens, but it's not the end. When the physical body exhales its final breath, something strange and beautiful happens. There is no immediate darkness, no eternal silence, no final curtain call. Instead, there's a moment of stillness, followed by the quiet unraveling of time itself. For the soul, death is not a closing. It is a soft opening, like waking up from a long, vivid dream only to realize that life was the dream. And now, you're finally awake. In that instant, the soul begins to shed the illusions of flesh, fear, ego, ambition, regret, like old garments that no longer fit. But it doesn't happen all at once. Some souls rise quickly into the light. Others linger, unsure of where they are, still tangled in the emotions of the life just lived. You see, the transition after death is not a door, it's a landscape, and each soul walks it differently. There is no ticking clock here. Time as we know it no longer holds power. Minutes can stretch into what feels like lifetimes, and lifetimes can pass in what feels like a moment. In this place, this sacred in-between, the soul is held, not judged, not punished, simply held by a presence ancient and infinite. Some describe this space as a cosmic waiting room, others as a temple of mirrors, but all agree it is a place where truth rises and illusions fall away. The soul begins to remember, not through words, but through vibration, through a deep inner knowing that starts to bloom like a forgotten light, one that never truly went out. At first, there may be confusion, a longing to return to what was familiar. A soul may even cling to the places it once lived, the people it once loved, hovering near the edges of the earthly realm, watching the world it left behind. But eventually, gently, like mist lifting from a valley, clarity begins to come. And with it, the soul's true journey begins. This is the realm between lives, what ancient mystics called the interlife, a space of profound healing, learning, and choice. And choice is the key. Because nothing that happens next is forced. Nothing is demanded. The soul is never punished, never shamed, never pushed. It is only offered. Offered clarity, offered wisdom, offered the gift of reflection. What many call judgment after death is not a courtroom. It's a mirror. And in that mirror, the soul sees the life it just lived, not from the outside, but from within. It feels every word it ever spoke, every act of kindness it gave or withheld, every thought that crossed its mind when no one was watching. It feels what others felt in response to its choices, not to suffer, but to understand. This is the moment of life review, a sacred unveiling where the soul experiences, in waves of pure awareness, the total impact of its earthly incarnation. For some, it is a flood of joy and peace. For others, it is humbling. But for all, it is freeing. Because here, there are no masks, no roles, no more pretending. There is only truth. And truth, in the spiritual realm, is never cruel. It is light. And light reveals everything. Through this review, the soul begins to glimpse its patterns, what it's still learning, what it's still carrying, and what it's ready to let go of. Did it learn to forgive? Did it stand up when it needed to speak truth? Did it love, not perfectly, but authentically? And if not, then what will it need in the next life to try again? This question becomes the seed of what comes next, the planning of another incarnation. But before the soul can return, it must decide what it needs most, not what it wants, what it needs. And what it needs will shape everything, from the land it is born into, to the mother who holds it, to the stranger it will one day fall in love with. It is here, in the silence between lives, that the soul begins to shape its next chapter, and the most profound decisions it will ever make are about to unfold. Once the life review is complete, once the soul has felt the ripple of every thought, every touch, every missed opportunity, something remarkable happens. A kind of stillness enters, not the stillness of silence, but the stillness of sacred clarity. In this space, the soul is no longer asking, "Why did I live that life?" It begins asking, "What do I still need to learn, to grow, to balance what has not yet been healed?" Because now, it sees not just what happened in its last incarnation, but why it happened. And even more importantly, what's still unfinished. This is not guilt. It is not punishment. It is purpose. The soul is not trying to repay a debt. It's trying to complete a lesson, one it chose long ago. This is the moment when the soul begins to design its next life. But before it can take form, before it chooses a body, a name, a story, it must choose where the next chapter begins. And that choice starts with the most sacred agreement of all. Choosing our parents is not a random act. It's a sacred agreement. Yes, the soul chooses its parents, even when those parents are absent, even when the childhood is painful, even when love comes with wounds. From the earthly perspective, this may seem unthinkable. Why would any soul choose to be born into poverty, into dysfunction, into grief? But from the soul's point of view, the question is not, how easy will this life be? It's, will this life give me what I need to grow? The soul studies. It watches. It looks at multiple family lines, different mother-father combinations, reviewing not only their current behavior, but their emotional patterns, their karmic energies, their hidden strengths and unspoken traumas. It sees their past, their wounds, their capacity to love, and their resistance to it. It reads their soul contracts too, because they, just like you, have chosen lessons in this life. And if those lessons align with yours, if being born into their story will help you remember who you are and what you came here to learn, then the bond is made. The agreement is sealed. Sometimes the soul chooses nurturing, gentle parents to experience safety, joy, and deep self-worth. Other times, it chooses absence, abuse, chaos, not as punishment, but because those very conditions will awaken the exact strength, compassion, or resilience the soul came here to reclaim. A child born into rejection might carry the sacred mission of learning self-love. A child born into silence might become the one who speaks truth. A child born into generational pain might be the one who breaks the cycle, not just for their family, but for their entire ancestral line. That's how powerful these choices are, and none of them are made alone. Surrounding the soul in this moment of planning are guides, beings of immense light and wisdom, who hold space as the soul contemplates the blueprint. They do not interfere. They do not command. They simply offer guidance, show possibilities, illuminate the karmic threads running through each option, because every parent chosen shapes the lessons that follow. If your soul needed to learn trust, it might choose a parent who is unpredictable, so it can learn to find stability within. If your soul needed to master compassion, it might choose a parent who is emotionally closed, so you can become the warmth that melts the ice. And if your soul needed to awaken quickly, it might choose a family dynamic so complex that only the fire of experience could reveal your light. This truth may feel heavy at first, but it's also profoundly liberating, because it means you are not a mistake, your family is not a curse, and your suffering was not for nothing. It means your soul chose with eyes wide open. Even if your human self has forgotten, your soul remembers. And the more you begin to honor the life you were born into, not as a limitation, but as a sacred initiation, the more your power returns. Begin asking yourself, what did I come here to learn by being born into this family? What strength has my soul been trying to build through this very pain? What patterns have I been chosen to break, not just for myself, but for those who came before me? These are not passive questions. They are keys. Because the moment you stop seeing your childhood as something that happened to you, and start seeing it as something your soul chose for you, your entire life begins to shift. You reclaim authorship. You step out of victimhood. You become the sacred participant in your own soul contract. And when that happens, something else opens. A new door in your heart, where bitterness once lived. That door is called forgiveness. Not forced forgiveness, not spiritual bypassing, but soul-level understanding that says, I may not have deserved the pain I experienced, but I now understand what it created in me and what I've come here to do with it. That is the quiet moment when pain transforms into purpose, and it always begins with the parent contract. The souls who brought you into this world, whether they loved you well or not at all, were part of a plan older than memory and deeper than blood. Sometimes you chose them to feel unconditional love. Other times, to learn how to give it, even when it was never modeled for you. And sometimes, just sometimes, you came to be the love they never gave themselves. The child becomes the healer. The seed becomes the tree. And from that rooted place, the soul prepares for the next great reunion, a meeting written before time began, a reunion that goes beyond blood. The soulmate, the one who will trigger your awakening in a different way. But before we meet them, there is something else we must understand. The deeper contracts between souls and the energies that magnetize them together. After the soul chooses its parents, after it selects the very soil in which its next life will grow, it turns toward another sacred thread, one that stretches across lifetimes, one that glows with a frequency beyond logic, one that pulls like gravity but feels like love. Because while family shapes the body, love shapes the soul, and the soul does not forget those it has truly loved. Some loves are written in the stars long before we're born. Before you ever laid eyes on them, your soul already knew. It knew the softness in their voice, the curve of their laughter, the specific way they'd challenge you, or calm you, or break you open so that something deeper could rise. We call them soulmates, but they are more than that. They are mirrors, messengers, and sometimes storms. Because a soulmate isn't just someone who completes you. They are someone who remembers you, even when you forget yourself. In the space between lives, the soul doesn't just choose lessons. It chooses companions, spirits it has traveled with before, souls it trusts, beings it made promises to, long before time was time. These aren't just romantic partners. Soulmates can be parents, siblings, mentors, children, or even strangers who enter your life for a single, unforgettable moment. What matters isn't the form of the relationship, it's the function. Awakening. And awakening rarely comes gently. Some soulmates are soft. They hold you, ground you, remind you what home feels like. Others are wildfires. They burn through the illusions you've built around your heart, forcing you to grow, to break, to remember. Some stay, some leave, but all were chosen. These meetings are not accidents. They are alignments, moments when soul contracts unfold and you are called back to a part of yourself you had buried. Have you ever met someone and felt like time paused? Like you didn't just meet, you reunited? That's not fantasy. That's memory, soul memory. These are the signs. A look that lingers too long. A conversation that feels like it began lifetimes ago. A silence between you that says more than words ever could. But here's the truth many don't understand. Meeting a soulmate doesn't guarantee ease. It guarantees growth. And growth is often messy. Some soulmates trigger your deepest wounds so you can finally heal them. Some reflect your potential so vividly that you feel both inspired and terrified. And some show up just long enough to alter the course of your life before disappearing into the mystery once again. We long for permanence, but the soul longs for expansion. So ask not, will this person stay forever? Ask, what did our souls come here to teach each other? Because that is the real sacred contract. And yet, not every intense connection is a soulmate. Sometimes we meet people who activate us, but it's not because of past life love. It's because of unresolved karma, spiritual debts we are still trying to close. That's why it's so important to feel beyond the intensity, to listen to the energy. Does this person make you feel more like yourself or less? Do they expand your truth or dim your light? Do they call you forward or pull you backward? Soulmate energy is not always comfortable, but it is always transformative. And within the soul contract, there is always a choice. Even when your soul has agreed to meet someone in this life, you still have free will. You can say yes. You can say no. You can run. You can stay. And sometimes, the bravest thing a soul can do is let go. Because not all soulmates are meant to walk beside you forever. Some came to awaken. Some came to challenge. Some came to remind you who you are, and then vanish. That too is sacred. In the higher realms, before reincarnation, you may have said, I will meet you again in this life. And even if you hurt me, even if we forget, I will recognize you. And they agreed. I will find you. I will love you in the way you need to awaken, even if that love must come through pain. These are not fairy tales. They are spiritual covenants. The soul doesn't just seek love, it seeks remembrance. And sometimes, the most unforgettable people are the ones who make us remember who we truly are. So when you feel that sudden, unexplainable pull towards someone, when their presence awakens something ancient in you, pause. Feel. Ask your heart, not your mind. What did our souls promise each other before we were born? And then listen. Because the answer is never loud, but it is always clear. The soul speaks in energy, and when the recognition is true, it will feel like standing in sunlight after years of darkness. Not because they are perfect, but because they see you. And if you let them, they'll help you see yourself. This is the sacred power of soulmates, not to complete you, but to awaken you. And in that awakening, your next choice begins. Because even soul contracts are only invitations. You are never bound. You are always free. Which leads us to one final truth, the one that redefines everything. If your soul chooses your life, and if your soul chooses your parents, and if your soul even chooses your soulmate, then what is the role of free will? The answer is not what most people think. If your soul chooses where to be born, if it selects your parents, your soulmate, even your wounds, then where does choice fit in? Where is your freedom, your ability to change course, to say no to what life lays before you? It's here, always. Because free will was never the opposite of destiny. It was always part of it. The soul's plan is not a fixed script. It's a living map. It sketches out the terrain, the valleys, the rivers, the cliffs you might face. But the path you walk, that's yours. You are not a puppet. You are a co-creator. The soul does not bind you. It prepares you. It shows you possibilities. Soul contracts, karmic invitations, sacred intersections, and then hands you the compass. Every moment, every breath is a chance to say, yes, number maybe later, I'm not ready, or I remember now. Let's begin. You are not here to be controlled by fate. You are here to awaken inside it. This is the beauty and the mystery of the soul's design. You chose your parents, but you can choose how you carry their story or rewrite it. You agreed to meet certain souls, but you choose how deeply you let them in or when it's time to walk away. You were born into a certain time, place, and culture, but you still choose the meaning you make from it and the path you forge forward. Free will is not rebellion against destiny. It is the very tool the soul uses to fulfill it. Imagine this. Before birth, your soul sets an intention to learn courage, to experience unconditional love, to heal an ancestral wound. It then selects the perfect conditions for that lesson: the family, the location, the body, the relationships. But once you arrive, you forget. This forgetting isn't a mistake. It's a sacred veil, a soft amnesia that gives the soul space to rediscover itself through lived experience. If you remembered everything, every past life, every contract, every divine agreement, you would move through life like a script reader, not a seeker. And the soul came here to feel, to risk, to choose, to fall and rise and fall again. That's why the veil exists. It protects the lesson. It protects the unfolding. But even within this forgetting, your soul is always whispering, through longing, through dreams, through the ache that says, there's something more. That ache is not your weakness. It's your compass. And when you follow it, when you begin to live as if your choices matter, as if your path has sacred weight, the veil begins to lift. Not all at once, but in glimpses. You start remembering, not facts, but feelings. You begin recognizing certain people, not with your eyes, but your soul. And life, the same life that once felt random or cruel, begins to feel like something else entirely. A mirror, a conversation, a guided mystery. You begin to see how every challenge is a sacred doorway. Every heartbreak, a chisel carving you back to truth. Every delay, a hidden mercy preparing you for what's next. Because what the soul seeks is not ease. It seeks alignment. And alignment comes through choice. You can ignore the signs. You can delay your growth. You can numb, avoid, distract, spiral. And yet, the path remains. Your soul is infinitely patient. Even the detours become part of the design. Even the wrong turns carry wisdom. There is no such thing as being permanently lost, only paused, only waiting. Because the soul will always create another door, another chance, another meeting, until you remember why you came. And here's the truth. Few are willing to say. You can refuse the very destiny you helped write. You can choose comfort over evolution, resentment over forgiveness, fear over love. But each time you do, your soul gently asks again, "Are you ready now?" And one day, the answer will be yes. That's the moment destiny meets devotion. The moment soul plan meets soul power. The moment you begin not just walking the path, but owning it. And that's when synchronicity erupts. You start meeting the right people. Doors open. Patterns break. Old wounds surface. Not to punish you, but to be healed. You begin remembering what you came here to do. You find yourself speaking truths you didn't know you knew. Loving more deeply than you thought possible. Feeling a pull toward places, practices, and people that seem strangely familiar. That's not coincidence. That's realignment. The soul is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's waiting for you to be present, to show up, to choose again and again, to live with intention, even when the path feels foggy. And when you do, you unlock something ancient, something sleeping within you for lifetimes, the remembrance of purpose. Because your purpose was never just a career, a relationship, or a lifestyle. Your purpose is who you become when you start living with soul. And who you become echoes far beyond this one life, which leads us to the final veil, the one between this world and the next, and the most mysterious part of the soul's journey, the forgetting. Why don't we remember our past lives? Why don't we recognize our soulmates instantly? Why can't we hear our guides clearly all the time? The answers lie in the silence just before birth. As the soul completes its planning, after the lessons are chosen, the contracts agreed upon, the body and birthplace selected, there is one final threshold, the moment just before incarnation. And this moment is sacred, because this is when the soul forgets, not forever, not as punishment, but as preparation. This final veil, known across ancient traditions as the Great Forgetting, is not a loss. It is a mercy. Imagine carrying every memory from every life you've ever lived, every joy, every trauma, every unfulfilled promise and karmic wound, all at once. It would be overwhelming, paralyzing. You couldn't move forward. You wouldn't be able to truly experience this life as new. So the forgetting is not a curse. It is a container, a sacred pause, a clean canvas, so that you may awaken, not with knowledge, but with wonder. And that's the beauty of it all. The soul, in its wisdom, agrees to this forgetting, trusting that what must be remembered will be. It trusts that the signs will come, that the right people will whisper truth, that pain will open doors, that longing will point the way. You are not meant to remember everything. You are meant to recognize what matters when it matters. And that recognition always begins with resonance, a pull toward a path you can't explain, a sudden emotion in a place you've never been, an encounter that feels like coming home. These are echoes, echoes from before this life began, echoes from the soul that never forgot. You've felt them before, haven't you? The moment you saw someone and just knew. The moment you stood somewhere and tears welled up with no cause. The moment your heart broke open, not from pain, but from remembering. That's the soul speaking, through symbols, through intuition, through dreams that leave you breathless at dawn. Even your greatest challenges, those you swore you'd never survive, are part of the remembering. Because what you fear the most often hides what you came here to reclaim. The soul hides its deepest treasures beneath its most painful patterns. And it is only through the courage of living, of choosing love in the face of fear, forgiveness in the face of betrayal, purpose in the face of confusion, that the soul begins to fully return to itself. You see, life was never about perfection. It was about participation, showing up, falling down, waking up, and doing it all again. Not because you failed, but because you are becoming. You are not here to get it all right. You are here to remember who you are, why you came, what you promised, and in that remembrance, to choose again, to choose light over numbness, growth over escape, presence over distraction. That is the sacred power of incarnation. Your soul did not come here by accident. It chose this time, this body, this family, these relationships, this path. Not for comfort, but for transformation. You didn't come here to escape pain. You came to alchemize it, to turn heartbreak into wisdom, loss into love, longing into light. You came to awaken in the middle of the forgetting and become the bridge between your soul's origin and this world. That is why you've always felt the pull, that sense that there is something deeper, that quiet knowing that you're not just a human being, but a traveler, a witness, a divine spark wrapped in skin. You are the soul remembering itself through the human experience, and you are not alone in that remembering. There are guides walking with you, unseen, but present. There are soul companions you haven't met yet, or perhaps you already have. There are karmic doors still waiting to open, not just for you, but because of you. Because your awakening matters. It doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of those around you. It heals generations. It ripples outward across dimensions you cannot yet see. So when you look at your life, even the messiest, most painful parts, look with reverence. Every experience is a clue. Every soul you meet is a mirror. Every choice is a chance to align with your higher plan. There is no punishment here, only preparation, only remembering. Even your wounds are woven with wisdom. Even your loneliness is part of the path. And even when you feel lost, your soul is still exactly where it needs to be. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not forgotten. You are unfolding, exactly as planned. So let this be the moment you stop searching for the path and start walking it. Let this be the moment you remember. You chose this life. You chose these parents. You chose this love. And you are choosing still. Not because you had to, but because your soul knew it would be worth it. And now, it's time to remember why.